You know, some stories are so old, so foundational, you'd think there's nothing new to say about them. But that's where you'd be wrong. Today, we're going to break down a 21st century poem by Denis Martindale that takes on one of the biggest stories of all, the biblical story of the resurrection. We'll explore how he sees those three pivotal days through a totally modern lens.
Right from the jump, the poem grabs you with its title, and yeah, it's in all caps. A lot can happen in 3 days. That's not just a title, that's the whole point. It immediately sets the stage for this massive, lightning-fast transformation, a story where the entire world is about to change in just 72 hours.
So what makes this take so modern? Well, get this. The author, Denis Martindale, says his inspiration was a powerful internet picture. How wild is that? It's this fascinating little detail that connects one of the most ancient stories in Western culture directly to our digital world. The whole thing was sparked by an image he saw online.
Okay, let's dive into this. The poem gives us a really clear roadmap, which is great. It follows this tight chronological structure, and we're going to follow it right along with him. First, day 1, the sacrifice. Then, day 2, the silence and stillness of the tomb. And finally, day 3, the resurrection.
All right, so let's start with day 1. The poem does not pull any punches here. It immediately paints this picture of just profound loss and sacrifice, really setting the emotional weight of what's happening and the deep human grief of everyone watching.
And wow, these opening lines really pack a punch. The poet establishes the central act, a sacrifice for sin. But right away, he grounds this huge, divine event in a very human emotion by putting a key witness right there in the first couple of lines, with Mother Mary there. This makes it clear this isn't just some theological idea, it's a personal, heartbreaking tragedy.
And notice what the poet does here. He zooms in on the relationships. It's like he creates this triangle of duty and raw emotion. You've got Christ's sacrifice, Mary's grief, and then the disciple John, who's given a brand new responsibility. It's a great way to show that even in this cosmic, world-changing moment, simple human connections still matter. And here, Martindale hits us with a core paradox of the whole story. To the ruling power, to Rome, this was just the execution of an enemy of the state. Simple as that. But the poem immediately throws that idea against the symbol of the crown, which stands for a completely different and, in the poem's view, a much more powerful kind of kingship.
So, from the public horror of the cross, the poem takes us to the quiet, sealed-up gloom of the tomb. And this, right here, is the turning point of the entire poem. It's the moment where total despair is about to collide with the miraculous. The poem is so specific here, laying out all the human attempts to make this death final. And listen to that language: a rock to keep Christ in, and guards to guarantee Christ would not win. This is humanity throwing everything it has, stone, steel, soldiers, to try and force an ending to this story.
And this just lays out the central conflict of the poem perfectly. On one side, you have man's plan, physical barriers, armed guards, the whole shebang. And on the other side, a power that just operates on a completely different level. The guards are put to sleep. The rock is rolled aside. All of man's effort is just pointless.
This is the pivot. The tone just flips from the darkness of the tomb to this triumphant shout. And the poet links the resurrection directly to this beautiful, powerful image from nature, a rising sun. It's a perfect metaphor for a new day, for hope, for a truth that you just can't keep buried in the dark.
But the story doesn't just end with an empty tomb, right? The poem knows that the next part of the story is how humans react to this impossible event. And to really dig into that, the poet focuses on this little mini-narrative of one very famous skeptic, Thomas.
The poet sets up such a sharp contrast here. First, you get the group's reaction. They are just amazed. But then, boom, he cuts to Thomas, who is all by himself, isolated in his doubt. It's such a relatable human moment, isn't it? That struggle to believe something that defies logic, even when all your friends are telling you it's true.
And here it is, the climax of Thomas's journey. His doubt isn't just brushed aside, it's confronted head-on. According to the poem, it's a direct, sensory experience that finally shatters his skepticism and leads to one of the most powerful declarations of faith in the whole story. His loneliness is broken by belief. Okay, so in its final stanzas, the poem kind of zooms out. It moves beyond just telling the story of those 3 days and starts to explain the deeper meaning, the ultimate takeaway that the poet wants us to get from all this.
So here, the poem makes this point crystal clear. It uses Thomas and his need for physical proof as a sort of benchmark. The poet is suggesting that there's a higher kind of blessing, a more realized faith, for people who can believe without having to see. A faith that's built on trust, not physical evidence.
And the poem wraps up by defining this huge concept, grace. It's framed as something completely different from a reward or something you work for. It's not earned, it can only be received. That one line really captures the poem's whole take on salvation. It's a gift, freely given, not a prize you win.
And so, to bring it all home, the poet ties everything together. That whole chaotic, world-changing story of 3 days gets boiled down to these core ideas: proof of kingship, the promise of gifts for everyone, a definition of faith as believing without seeing, and the idea of salvation is a gift of grace.
At the end of the day, this poem, a poem sparked by a picture someone found on the internet, is just a powerful example of how these timeless stories are always being retold and reinterpreted. And it really leaves us with a big question, doesn't it? Why do these ancient stories keep inspiring new art? What is it about them that lets them connect so deeply with us, generation after generation?